Welcome back. Now that you know how to create a board, it's time to also display the board. And in order to do that, we will need to create a recycler view for this page here. As you can see, we have this hello world text currently as the only content of this page, but we want to change that. So we will need to create a recycler view, and therefore we of course need to create an adapter, and we will need to create an individual row inside of that recycler view, as well as the overall page that we can see here, or overall activity XML file. All right, so let's go ahead and start with that. Therefore, what I'm gonna start with is with the content main, or in my case, I think I called it main content. So here in layout, I called it main content, even though it should have been content underscore main. But let's go ahead and start with that. So first of all, what I will start with is that I want to use a linear layout here. Then let's add a background. So here, background should be the IC background, as well as the gravity should be a center, and the orientation should be vertical. And then I will add some padding, and for that I will use 16 dp, even though of course we could go to the dimensions. So here in the values, dimensions, if you want to stay consistent, let's just create some more dimensions in here, and I'm gonna do that real quick. So these are the new dimensions that I want to use. So main screen content padding, no boards available text size, item board content margin bottom, item board content padding, image size, image circular border width, and so forth. All right, so a bunch of new dimensions. You can of course download the dimensions file from this chapter, and these are going to be the dimensions that we're going to use in our main content, but also in another XML file, which will be our individual row inside of our recycler view. Then I will use something that I think we haven't used before, and that is the layout behavior. So layout underscore behavior, this one here, and there I want to use the app bar scrolling view behavior. All right, so this already exists, and if we look at it, it's here inside of the values XML, and these are not necessarily strings that we have created, but it's the ones that are directly available by Android, or made available by Android. And the layout behavior, what it does is the class name of a behavior class defining special runtime behavior for this child view. So what we will do is we will make the app bar, or we'll use the app bar scrolling view behavior. So the idea is, do you want to leave the app bar open, or do you want to get rid of it when once you scroll? So these are the things that you can change in the layout behavior. All right, and then what I want to have is a layout that allows me to put something inside of it and that it looks good. So I'm just going to use a card view. All right, so of course could use multiple different things with that description, but basically I'm just going to use a card view here, which matches the parent in both directions, and I want to have a white background. So I'm just going to use add color, or actually Android color white. All right, then a little bit of elevation for our card view so that it creates a little shadow. And here I'm going to use elevation. So here card view elevation, as well as a little radius for the corner so that it's rounded, so that we get a rounded radius. So card corner radius, and here card view corner radius, this one here. Okay, so inside of this card view, I want to have a recycler view. All right, so this is where our recycler view comes into play. Recycler view, and it was not this one. Recycler view, this one here, with a width of match parent and a height of match parent. Now this one is going to get an ID so that I can communicate with it, and I will use the rv_boards list here. So this will be the name, rview standing for recycle view, and will be the boards list. And then finally, I'm going to set the visibility to gone for now. Okay, so it should be invisible for the beginning. And underneath that, I would like to have a text view. So I'm just going to use the text view that we had before, where we just said hello world, and I'm going to use that. So you can see we have those two inside of our card view. And at the beginning, we just want to display a text view, which says no cards available, please create one, or something like that. And I'm going to call this one TV, no boards available, so that it's a little more descriptive. It should match the parents in both directions. And the text should be something like no bars available. So let's go ahead to the strings and create a new string here as well. So strings. So it's just going to be this string here, no boards are available, and the text which will just be no boards are available, this exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. So now we can use that instead here. So add string, or actually let's use no boards are available. That's easier this way. We don't need to use all of this constraint layout stuff because we are using a linear layout. So let's get rid of that. The text should be centered. So let's adjust the gravity to center so that it's beautifully centered there. Text color. Well, let's use the secondary text color that we have prepared. And then the text size should be text size for, what is it? No boards are available text size. This one here. All right, so these are the dimensions, the main content, the strings. Now let's add one color here that I want to have, and that is going to be my divider color. So I will create a little divider and I will use this color here. So EA, and I don't mean the video game company here, of course, it's just this color that we are using here. All right, so let's design every individual board that we want to display. So it's just going to be a list view element, so a list view item that we want to design. So let's go ahead and create a new XML file for our layout, new layout, and I'm going to call this one item board. And how I want to look like is on the left side, I want like to have an image and then a title, and then also underneath it, who created this board. All right, so that's basically it. Not too complicated. Of course, you can adjust it to your liking. You could add the created date and so forth. So a lot of information that you can add. Okay, so instead of a constraint layout, I'm going to use a linear layout here again. The width should be match parent, but the height should be only wrap content, so only wrap the content height. Then the background should be attributes selectable item background. As you can see, so there is one by default, this one here, selectable item background, which is a style that may be applied to buttons or other selectable items that should react to pressed, focus states, and so forth. Okay, so this is the one that I want to use. Then the orientation will be vertical, as well as I want to have a little margin towards the bottom for this whole thing of margin, and this one is called item board content margin bottom, this one here. All right, so this is the linear layout. Inside of that linear layout, I want to have another linear layout which puts things next to each other, and then one where things are put on top of each other. Okay, so we have multiple linear layouts here. So let's create another one which will be very similar. So let's go ahead and close this linear layout. So this is the linear layout that I want to use. Match parent, wrap content, orientation horizontal, so that elements are next to each other. The padding should be item board content padding. And then I want to use the circle image view. So this one here, I'm going to call this one IV board image. And the width should be item board image size, which is 60 density pixels, as well as the height. So in both directions, 60 density pixels. Then we have a content description. We have a source, which is our IC board placeholder in case we don't have an image for it, right? And then I would like to use the Civ border color of color primary text color. And in order to do so, I need to create a namespace for app. Okay, so it's added here at the top, a new namespace. So this will put the image here, as you can see. And now I would like to have a text and then another text underneath it. So the top text should be our title. So what we will need is another linear layout so that things can be put on top of each other. So this time the orientation will be vertical. So here, orientation vertical, margin start will be item board name layout margin in my case. So this is the dimension that I created, but internally it's just going to be 10 density pixels. Then this linear layout has to, of course, be closed at one point, and here we can now create our two text views. Okay, so I'm just gonna paste them in here so that we have them directly here. So text view number 1 will be TV name, match parent, wrap content, as usual. We take the whole width, but only the height that is necessary. Then we set the text color as the primary text color, text size as item board name text size. Then in tools, I'm going to add this namespace as well. In tools, I want to call this one board name. As you can see now, in tools it's called board name, and underneath I have this created by, and that will then later on, of course, be replaced by created by the username. So it's going to add the username here to the text itself, because here we're just using the tools text so that we see something in the design, but we're not actually setting the text specifically. All right, and now let's go ahead and create the adapter. So we will need to create a new class. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to put that into a new directory. So let's go ahead and create a new path here, new package, and I'm going to call this one adapters. And here, let's go ahead and create a new class, Kotlin file, and I'm going to call this one board items adapter. Okay, so each time we work with recycler views, we of course need to have an adapter, and I'm going to make this one open so that I can inherit from it. And here I will directly add a constructor. All right, so I'm gonna say that I want to have the context and the list that I need to display, which will be an array list of boards. Okay, so nothing new. We have used this approach multiple times already. Of course, we need to import context as well as board. And then we can add the recycler view text here. So we need to have a recycler view, or we need to inherit from recycler view dot adapter, and here we will create a new view holder class. So I'm just going to say recycler view dot view holder. All right. So let's import recycler view, and now let's create our own view holder. And here implement the members that are necessary. So let's implement all of them, select all, and it created the ones that we need in here. And of course, let's go ahead and create this private class my view holder here, where we pass in the view, and it's a recycler view dot view holder, where we pass in the view. So if this is a little too quick for you, check out the demo on recycler views, okay? Because we're not doing anything fancy or new here. It's the same that we have used before, the same code pretty much. So let's start with on create view holder. What do we want to do in here? Well, we will return my view holder, which we then can pass in the view that we want to display. Well, the view that we want to display is coming from layout inflator from context inflate, and then we use the layout that we want to inflate. And the layout that we prepared just for this was called item underscore board. And we need to pass in the parent as well as the statement for attached to root. Okay, now let's import R. Okay, and that seemed to work. That's fine. So let's go ahead and put that in a different line here so it's a little more readable. So we return our view holder here with the parent and those settings, as you can see. Then let's go to our onBind view holder. Here, what we want to do is we want to first of all use the model, which will be our list. Okay, so list at the position. So our class board items adapter gets a list of boards. So a single board should be our model. So we're using this model here in order to then check if the holder is my view holder. Then we can use glide in order to display an image. And the image that we want to display is of course the image of the board that we have used. So I'm just going to use with context, and context is the variable that is given to our adapter, which will be the class in which this recycler view will be displayed. Of course, in our case, it's the main activity. Then it's going to be model image. And by the way, model, of course, will be our list position, which means it will be the board itself. So it's going to be this board and it's going to give us this image. Okay, because that's what we are passing to this class, to this board items adapter. All right, so we get the image of the board. We center crop it. As a placeholder, we use IC board placeholder, and then we put that into the holder item view IV board image. And IV board image is inside of item underscore board XML, this circle image view that we have prepared just a couple of minutes ago, and I called it IV board image. Now, if we look at this item board, we of course also need to set the board name and create it by. All right, so let's just do that inside of this onBind view holder. So now we have the image. Now it's time to set the item view, TV name, text. So here holder dot item view dot TV underscore name dot text will be model dot name. And then we have holder dot item view dot TV underscore created by. Text should be, for now, created by, and then we get that info from the model. So model dot created by. Okay. Now, of course, every single holder should have an on-click listener. So every single one of those boards should be clickable, because then you get into the board and you see the board details with all of those cards and all of those list items that you have there. So all of the tasks that have to be finished. All right. So what we'll do is we'll say holder.itemView.set on click listener. So we add an on click listener. All right. So then what I want to prepare as well is an on-click listener. So I'm going to create my own interface here, which will be an on-click listener, which will then have a function on click with the position where it was clicked, which will be an integer, and the model that it was pretty much clicked. So when we click onto one of those list elements, it's always at a specific position and there is a board in the background, right? So I want to use this on-click listener here. But the thing is, we of course need to create an object or an instance of that on-click listener, and I'm just going to create it up here at the beginning of the class. So for now, I'm just going to say private var on-click listener should be an on-click listener nullable, which I'm going to assign null to. And then later on, and to be specific, when we assign an on-click listener to our holder item view, which means to our list item, at that point, I want to assign an on-click event. So here, if the on-click listener is not null, then do on-click listener on click with the position and the model, because we get both, right? So in this on-bind view holder, that's where we get it, right? Where we get the holder, we get the position, and then based on the position, we can find out the model, and we can then pass both to the on-click event, which is of course this on-click that will then be executed. Now let's do the get item count. I think that's the easiest one, where we just return the amount of items. So here, return list.size. And by the way, the list is the one that we get passed when we create this adapter. So depending on how many list items we have in our database, that's the amount of items that we want to have in get item count. All right, and at this point we have prepared our board items and the item adapter. Of course, we still need to add a recycler view, but that's what we will do in the main activity and in the next video. So unfortunately, this is not the point where we can test it yet, but we will do so in the next video. So this was just a preparation to prepare the board items and to prepare the adapter, the UI and everything. But at this point, we can now go ahead and implement the final parts of this to finally then test it. So to load the data from the database, load it into our app, then load it into our recycler view and display the different boards that we have. So see you in the next video.